CBC's significance to Canadian history and culture.
Do you recognize this logo? I'm pretty sure you've seen this at least once if you live in Canada.
The Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, or CBC, is a Canadian federal crown corporation that is a broadcaster for Canada. Just like hockey or the maple leaf, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation also is a symbol for Canada and stands for something. The Canadian Broadcasting Corporation had developed due to Canadians wanting to show their identity and have their voice heard. The Canadian Broadcasting Corporation was founded because people were worried about the influence of American radio in Canada. It is a great part of Canada's history and culture, and it is still a great part of Canada today. It was something that could be enjoyed by all, especially in the time of the Depression. The radio is something that got Canadians away from their troubles, and that is what was provided by the Americans. The Aird Commission advised to create a broadcasting network that was national in 1929. 1930 is when Graham Spry and Alan Plant were trying to persuade people about the Canadian broadcasting and founded the Radio League. Finally, in 1932, the Bennett government created the Canadian Radio Broadcasting Commission. The CRBC had a network of radio stations that were set up by the Canadian National Railway. This network was used to broadcast to passengers about Canadian affairs. November 2, 1936 is when the Canadian Radio Broadcasting Commission changed to become the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. They became a corporation following the British Broadcasting Corporation, also known as BBC. Leonard Brockington became CBC's first chairman. They became responsible for broadcasting in all of Canada. They were a broadcaster and chief regulator, and they used their roles to take much of the AM radio stations in Canada. They later introduced a French radio network in the December of 1937 and brought the FM radio to Canada by 1946. The CBC television broadcasting started on 6 September of 1952 with 2 new stations opening in Montreal and Ontario after 2 days. They got their first television station in October of 1953 in Sudbury. In between 1944 and 1962, CBC began the Trans-Canada Network and the Dominion Network by dividing the English radio into 2. The Dominion Network ended in 1962, and the Trans-Canada Network became the CBC Radio, which later divided into CBC Radio 1 and CBC Radio 2. In conclusion, Canadians worrying about American influence triggered all the events that led to the creation of CBC. CBC is a very important aspect of Canadian culture. Due to America and Canada being so diverse and similar in cultures, Canada needed something to differentiate themselves from America. That is where CBC came in. CBC engages with Canadians through different ways to keep the Canadian culture full of life. Many Canadians are attached to their national broadcaster for many reasons. Canadians count on the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation for news based on Canadian perspective, affairs that are current and around the world, drama that is unique, comedy based on Canadians, music, arts, and documentaries that are just available in Canada, experiences, realities, and for entertainment purposes. CBC also allows Francophones to associate with their language and culture in a country that is full of English. They are an English and French company, but also make content in 8 other Indigenous languages, work in 6 time zones, and are streamed for hours daily. They focus on Canadians mostly, and they create shows and programs based on the diversity and relatability of Canadians while telling great stories that entertain and enlighten people. The authentic stories they tell contribute to keeping Canada's culture alive. Today, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation has grown bigger than ever, and Canadians still rely on them to preserve Canadian ways. They provide both Canadian languages, French and English, in radio and television. They are constantly providing content on cable news channels that go on for full 24 hours. They have special service to broadcast content to the Arctic in English and French and their languages, First Nations and Inuit Aleut. CBC is meant to give Canadians good service through online, mobile, audio, and video platforms. They are a significant cause in helping talented Canadians get into the entertainment industry. 9 in 10 Canadians want the CBC content to become stronger in their places. Canadians that support CBC support them strongly, but the amount is decreasing compared to the other services. Although declining, many Canadians still believe and can confidently say that CBC is the primary method to preserve Canadian culture and make sure their culture stays different from American culture.
In conclusion, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation is a very significant part in Canada's history and culture. They do a pretty good job in informing, helping, and entertaining Canadians by giving them good Canadian content and preserving Canadian culture. Due to the worrying yet undetermined effects of American content being broadcasted in Canada helps CBC come to life. Canadians supporting CBC and believing that they are a very important factor in saving Canadian culture is what helps CBC grow from something small to a huge service. In conclusion, the creation and growth of Canadian Broadcasting Corporation is a major part of history and a significant cause in preserving Canadian culture. Well, that's it for the CBC. I hope you enjoyed and were informed about their creation and significance. All of the pictures were taken from the internet, so I don't own any of them. The information is from several websites. The links will be down below in the description. So thank you for tuning in and giving 6 minutes of your time. I hope everyone's doing great and have a nice day.